The human heart is a hard-working pump that moves blood through the body. It pumps its entire blood volume every minute. About 8,000 liters of blood move through 96,000 kilometers of blood vessels every day. The heart of an average adult beats about 70 times per minute, more than 100,000 times per day. In a 70-year lifetime, the heart beats more than 2.6 billion times without fatiguing.
Let's study about the structure of the human heart.
The human heart is composed of cardiac muscle tissue called myocardium. The outer protective covering of the heart is a fibrous connective tissue called the epicardium. Connective tissue and endothelium forms the inside of the heart called the endocardium. Endothelium is a single layer of epithelial cells lining the chambers of the heart and the lumen of blood vessels. The left and right halves of the heart are two separate pumps, each containing two chambers. In each half, blood first flows into a thin-walled atrium, then into a thick-walled ventricle. Valves are present between the upper and lower chambers. The tricuspid valve is between the right atrium and right ventricle. The bicuspid valve is between the left atrium and left ventricle. The tricuspid and bicuspid valves are collectively called the AV valves, atrioventricular valves. The pulmonary semilunar valve is at the exit of the right ventricle, and the aortic semilunar valve is at the exit of the left ventricle. Collectively, the pulmonary and aortic semilunar valves are called the semilunar valves. All of these valves open and close due to blood pressure changes when the heart contracts during each heartbeat. These valves keep the blood moving in one direction, preventing backflow. Here is shown a labeled diagram of the human heart. Two separate pumping valves are shown. Here is the right atrium and right ventricle and the left atrium and left ventricle. Between the right atrium and right ventricle, tricuspid valve is present, and the bicuspid valve is between the left atrium and left ventricle. Heartbeat. The heartbeat is a sequence of muscle contractions and relaxations called the cardiac cycle. A pacemaker, a small mass of tissue called the sinoatrial node present at the entrance of right atrium, initiates heartbeat. The sinoatrial node initiates the cardiac cycle by producing an action potential that spreads over both atria, causing them to contract. The action potential then passes to the atrioventricular node near the interatrial septum. Then the action potential continues through the atrioventricular bundle of his at the tip of the interventricular septum. The atrioventricular bundle divides into right and left branches, which are continuous with the Purkinje fibers in the ventricular valves. Stimulation of these fibers causes the ventricles to contract and eject blood into the pulmonary and systematic circulations. The action potential moving over the surface of the heart causes current flow, which can be recorded at the surface of the body as an electrocardiogram. During each cycle, the atria and ventricles go through a phase of contraction called systole and a phase of relaxation called diastole. While the atria are relaxing and filling with blood, the ventricles are also relaxed. As more and more blood accumulates in the atria, blood pressure rises, and the atria contract, forcing the AV valves open and causing blood to rush into the ventricles. When the ventricles contract, the AV valves close and the semilunar valves open, allowing blood to be pumped into the pulmonary arteries and aorta. After blood has been ejected from the ventricles, they relax and start a new cycle.
This is how the blood circulates.
Deoxygenated red blood cells from various parts of the body enter inferior vena cava of the heart. Blood cells flow into the right atrium and then into the right ventricle, then exit to the lungs via the pulmonary artery. The oxygenated blood from the lungs then enters the heart via pulmonary veins. Oxygenated blood then moves into the left atrium and into the left ventricle. Then finally, the blood moves into aorta from which it is pumped to the rest of the body.
Here the cycle completes and continues again.
Do subscribe the channel for more videos.